Hey, folks, we're live. This is the pre-show, though. Ellery came to say hi in the pre-show.
Hi.
Hi.
To infinity and your mom.
See ya. I love you.
Bye-bye.
Careful on that leg. All right, she's bouncing all around with her stitches all up and down her leg. Well, not all up and down. That's exaggerating. About that much from her ankle up. So she's healing just fine and soaking it all up and getting mom to do her bidding for the last 3 days has been fun to watch. Hey, field guy, USA, USA, USA. Indeed. We're going to talk a little America tonight. So we don't do enough of that these days on this show. I've left that to others. Kids heal fast. Yes, they do. And she's out of here already. So, yeah, she was fine the first day. The only thing that's been a problem for her is the meds for pain. She gets a little pain down in there. She pops the pill that she's supposed to take, but then that gives her a headache. So that's about the only problems she's really had with it. And there, it looks like we are all set up and ready to roll at 3 minutes after the top of the hour, which is a minute and a half from now. So hope everybody's doing okay. Good to see people lining up to listen. If you want to come into the chat room, you can. Be fun to have people in the chat room tonight. Get your thoughts, your impressions. Hey, Anita Palmer. Hi, all. Hand purple blue piece. It came out spelt like that. It's not showing in YouTube as the emoji that you were aiming for. It comes out. It says all exclamation point. Okay, colon hand slash purple or dash purple dash blue dash piece. That's what it does. The translation is not always there. So I hope everybody had a good day today. We got about a half a minute and we go live. Elder Barry is here. Hey, Elder Barry. Matthew Finn, good to see you. Good to have you in here always. Master and commander of this chat room. Glad you're here. I'd say I'm tired tonight, but I think it would be easier to say on the occasions that I'm not tired than I'm not tired. Going dark and starting. Stand by.
The Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey, folks, happy Monday evening and welcome to the broadcast. I am Scotty Roberts, your host of this here, my show, the Intrepid radio program, right here on subspace.radio, where you can go to hear this show in its audio format. You can hear it in its audio rebroadcast tomorrow, and I think other days throughout the week. I got to get that down so I know exactly when it's rebroadcast. So welcome to everybody over in the chat room, over on the YouTube channel, which is the place where you can go to see this show in its video simulcast. And it's also simulcast over on Facebook via my page, Intrepid Radio page, Subspace Radio page. And it's also, I think, broadcasting on Twitter, if I'm not mistaken. And so you can see it here. I like the chat room over in the YouTube channel. I think that's the best one. If you're writing into the chat room from the Facebook or other locations, it doesn't always get seen by everybody, and you don't always see all the chat. So if you want to chat, come on over to the YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. And when you're there, if you're not joined the broadcast yet, you can hit the subscribe button and the little bell that will give you announcements. You can also hit the join button, and it'll show you 3 ways you can help financially support this show, which is important. But the show is always free. So if you can't do it, that's fine. I'm just glad you're here. If you can't give $1 or $5 or $15 a month, which are the 3 levels I have, you can spread the word and show up. It's good to have you all here. So welcome, everybody. Roger Rabbit is here. Grumpy Stack. Matt Finn. Who else is in here? Field Guy is here. Philip Blair is here. Anita Palmer is here in the chat room. I think I said Grumpy Stack already, but he's worth saying twice. Chief Remeldian Olympus is here. And who else we got? Elderberry is in the room. And that's it so far in the chat room. But if you want to join the fellow Intrepids over in the chat room, come on over. I know there's a lot more of you watching and listening, but you can participate by coming over into the chat room. And it'd be fun to have you here. And before we go too much further, I'm going to do, yes, another affirmator for today's show. Again, this is the little deck that Rainey found at the thrift store and said, I got to get that for Scotty. And she got it for me. And it's kind of tongue-in-cheek. It's not oracle cards. It's not tarot cards. It's a lot more benign than that. But it's more like daily reminders of things. I'm going to shuffle this deck up. And let's see what our affirmator is for today. I'm going to shuffle one more time. And you can take this to heart. Take it into tomorrow morning. Use it in your day. And let me cut the deck, and we'll pull a card. Boom, boom, boom. All right, here's our card. There's the front side with the rabbit riding the unicorn, leaping over the rainbow. Your affirmator for today. It's gentleness. Gentleness. Let's see what this has to say. I speak with gentleness, and I listen with gentleness. I align with the gentlest part of myself, and I take joy in being receptive, open, and unafraid. You know gentleness? Did you know that gentleness or meekness in the Bible even talks about the meek shall inherit the earth? It's not talking about the doormats. It's talking about controlled power, controlled strength, gentleness, meekness. I take joy in being receptive, open, and unafraid. I am like a baby deer who's best friends with the baby elephant. The baby elephant wraps its little trunk around my shoulders, and we lie down gently on the grass, daydreaming and talking about what sorts of humans the clouds look like. So a little tongue-in-cheek, little cheeky, little humorous. But have you ever thought about that? That occurs to me right now as I read this card. Do you nurture your gentleness, your controlled power? When you look at gentleness in that respect, gentleness isn't, oh, I must always talk to you with this voice, and I must always be gentle and kind to you, and I must always interpret your words with gentleness. And it doesn't mean that. Gentleness it's like being gentlemanly. When a man is gentlemanly to a woman or to other men, is he meek? No, it's controlled power, strength in check. And so this would encourage you, and I'd encourage you. Like Sarah Yusuf says, I try really hard to do that. Sarah said mutual love of peanuts. That would be the baby deer and the elephant wrapped up together in the grass. Grumpy Stack says, I was gentle once. You're still gentle. Don't let him fool you, folks. Gentleness is controlled strength. It's being strong, speaking your mind. You can even be angry and be gentle. If I could bring up a biblical verse again, I do that because that's my background. That's where I came from. That stuff is still all in my head. It said, speak the truth in love is what Bible believers are commanded to do. Speak the truth in love. Can you be angry and be gentle? Yeah, you can. I can be angry. I'm going to be angry about some things tonight I'm talking about. Passionate anyway, but I'll be gentle even though my delivery might seem passionate. And I think all of us can be the same. I know Uncle Dave. Uncle Dave just entered the room. Uncle Dave is one of the best people I know. One of my dearest friends who has the ability to be gentle, even though he has an undercurrent of great power and great strength. So gentleness does not mean harshness. It does not mean meekness. It does not mean doormatishness. It means controlled strength. And so that's what that card told us to do today. So that's our affirmator for today. You're gentle. Be gentle. Be a gentleman. Be a gentlewoman. And always go out in the world and act that way. I think that's a good thing. Let's get into tonight's topic because it's something I want to talk about and something I've thought about for a long time. I wasn't sure I was going to talk about this until about an hour ago, frankly, because I didn't know which direction I wanted to head tonight. Did I want to do something psychological? Did I want to do something political? Did I want to do something historical? All of those things come into mind. Paranormal, I've been trying to push out to Friday, so we can do that on Friday. Sometimes we cross over to that during the week. But I want to ask you about the divisiveness of America right now. Do you see America as I grew up, and what did I learn about America? America, land of the free and home of the brave. Yet I'm finding that it has become today, at least, and I know other countries see us this way. America isn't land of the free and home of the brave. It's the land of hate and home of contempt. That's the way our political system has driven us. That's the way I believe. You may disagree with me, but that's how I believe the current administration and president have driven us. They're driving us to political division over politics. And you know what? Somebody will say, well, both sides do that, you know. Well, duh. Both sides do that to a certain degree. But I've never seen more division than I've seen than in the last 8 or 9, 10 years. And those who try to reduce the divisiveness are called dividers themselves. The current president, Joe Biden, ran on trying to make us the most unified country ever. Well, unified so long as you believe and toe his line or his administration's line. I really don't think he does much on his own. But all of that to say, this isn't a show that's supposed to be bashing the other side. Isn't that the antithesis of divisiveness, of being non-divisive? Is pointing out how the other side divides and saying there are sides to begin with. So these are things I want us to look at tonight. And I've got a couple of different things I want to talk about. I've got 5 ways to reduce the hatred and the contempt that divide America. I've also got some examples from the life of Abraham Lincoln, which, believe it or not, one of the most loved presidents in our history, has even been recent target of divisiveness, the divisive culture in our country. So there's 5 ways, I think. The contempt that divides America causes every one of us to suffer. And we need to do better. We can do better than that. Now, I can state things that I believe are causing our divisiveness, and I then will be labeled divisive for doing that. There's the paradox in it all. You can say, look, I want to be a gentle healer, somebody with controlled gentleness, controlled strength, controlled power, and gentle as I deliver my message. And I can be impassioned. I can even be angry about it. But you have to keep it in check. And you always have to watch yourself. This is the thing that most people, I think, in the divisive camp, the camp that wants to try to divide us, is the camp that is always angry. They're always angry. They will always try to shout you down. They will always try to shout you out if you disagree with them. That's a big cause of divisiveness in our country. Now, America right now is more divided now than it has been since right after the Civil War. We are more divided now, if you look at us. The rising levels of hatred and contempt that the right and the left have toward one another cause both sides to suffer. Now, some of the contempt that's out there, I think there are things that we should be contemptuous of and still be unifiers. You can be a unifier and have contempt for something. have a hatred of something. And by hatred, I don't mean that evil hatred that spews out of the bile of our hearts, but a hatred of something that is counterintuitive and counterproductive to unity. Are we a unified country right now? Maybe in some respects, if you think about this, we're more unified than we're divided. But we have a great outward show of divisiveness right now to the rest of the world. And the rest of the world right now takes note of that. Those who would be our enemies take note of that. I also want to say, and I've said this before, places like the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, they want to take us over. They are enemies to our country. The people of China are not, for the most part. Those people want nothing but peace and to live in peace and to live in unity. I said this is the same thing about Iran and Iraq over the last decade. And I've said it before. The people of Iran want to share with us and it's their government. It's the people who are in charge that drive us into this divisiveness. And there's strategies that we can use that are going to help us bridge the divides that separate us in this country. And are you tired like me? Are you tired of all the hatred and the contempt that we've been seeing between both the right and the left in America and elsewhere? In recent decades, America has become certainly much more polarized than it's ever been. We had a civil war where we were divided with weapons against each other and warring and killing each other. And we're more polarized than that now. While some folks on the right and the left will undoubtedly continue to vilify one another, the exhausted majority of America, and I'll say that again, the exhausted majority of Americans are sick and tired of the toxic divisiveness within these United States of America. This is not the nation we were supposed to be. The only divisiveness we had when we founded this nation was a divisiveness between freedom and tyranny, and that we would fight against that. So it's like the seductive power of junk food. And I fall under its spell very often. I love junk food, certain junk foods. I will say this as a note. There's some junk foods I can't eat anymore. It's just no draw for me anymore. Fast food, not a draw for me anymore. I used to love when I had my own studio in Minneapolis down in Uptown, and Uncle Dave knows where this is. I had a studio in the Rainbow Building, it was called. You think of that when you're talking about divisiveness. The Rainbow Building, kitty corner from Calhoun Square, Uncle Dave. I was right on Hennepin and Lake, for those of you who know the area. Down at the end of the other block, across the street from, I just saw recent news on the Uptown Theater being revitalized, was a McDonald's. And many times during I would walk over there and get a Big Mac or something for lunch. Now we're talking the early 90s when I had my studio there. Many times I'd go the other direction down the street and go to the Lotus, the Vietnamese cafe, and that was good too. But I digress. There's a seductive power of junk food, and like that seductive power to us, if we have it in the house, we'll eat it. You ever start eating junk food, you go, take that thing away from me so I don't eat any more of it. It's seductive. It's tempting to continue our consumption of hatred toward one another in this country. It's like that power that things have over us. I watch the news in the morning, and it stokes my passion. It stokes my anger. It makes me divisive. Not in a bad way, but it makes me divisive. It's almost intoxicating to bond with our group over our mutual disdain for the other side. That's what we do. It's intoxicating. Most of you here who will agree with the words I say tonight, you're like, I'm in that camp. We all bond together in that. We all bond in hatred of that side that wants to take that away, that is destroying our unity, destroying our country as we see it. Now, the media makes money off of the outrage because such enemy-focused stories get our most valuable commodity. They get our attention. And it's not the media's fault because we're the ones who keep consuming the partisan contempt. We can and need to do better than this. I have friends who are so partisan that they have a tough time. I said to some people, it's okay to admit that you voted for the wrong guy. It's okay. I forgive you. Let's move on. Let's do better next time. Now, some of them might be saying the same to me. But right now, the current administration, I don't see many people wanting to vote that administration back in unless it's just for divisive party politics, to keep the other party out. So we can and need to do better than this in this country. And here's some ideas that might help us cool the fires of contempt and hatred that keep us divided. Now, some of this sounds really cliche, and you'll have to forgive me for that. I don't mean to be cliche with this, but I think they're so simple that they sound cliche. Here's what I've got here. Number 1 of 5. We are in this together. Now, I heard Obama say that. I've heard Trump say that. And Trump didn't use that phrase so much. But you've seen both sides of the party use that line. Abe Lincoln said, who I want to get to a little later if I give myself enough time, I am loath to close. We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained it, it must not break our bonds of affection. So said President Abraham Lincoln in his first inaugural address. Like it or not, Democrats, Republicans are all Americans. Despite having some strong differences on a subset of hot button topics, we're in this all together. All of us are Americans. We're all part of this country. And if we don't do something to fix that and fix the divisiveness, it's not going to be much of a country any longer. You talk about people that give prophecies of doom and so on. We used to ask the question when I was in seminary, my seminary days, how come America's not prophesied about it in the Bible? Maybe it's all not true, or maybe America doesn't exist at the end times. You know, that's the kind of thing we used to say. But that's a real question I want to ask you. How much longer do you think America has as a constitutionally limited republic, which is what it was designed to be, without tyranny, a country that goes back to understanding that the government is not the boss, the people are the boss of the government? How much longer do we have, do you think, at the rate we're going? Will we always survive these things? Or will there be a point where we're pushed so far away from our original founding concepts and precepts that there's no coming back from it? Despite having some strong differences on all these different issues, we're all in this together. From this perspective, it's like we are in a marriage, or at least are a family, where divorce isn't an option because it divides the family. Our Constitution provides a framework through which we can make changes through policies and laws, but secession is not a constitutionally based option. Seceding from the Union is not a viable constitutional option. Disagreements are to be expected in a melting pot of more than 330 million people. However, we can disagree without being disagreeable. Now, I'm looking at this, I'm trying to funnel the way America acts as a nation corporately into how we are supposed to act toward each other. We can disagree without being disagreeable. I have friends who have, I've mentioned this before, I have friends who have ended long-term relationships, friendships. I had a friend of 26 years that ended our friendship over who I voted for. And so when that kind of stuff happens, first of all, I have to ask, what kind of character does that person have? What kind of integrity do they have? People who will create division between long-term friends over a political disagreement. So we can agree to disagree. We can disagree without being disagreeable. Pardon my cough still. And I just saw a good friend of mine, Matt Locke, who is in radio, Matlock Radio. And I think he's a Working Man Radio. And he said something in just a meme. It showed a bunch of hands with beers all toasting each other. And it said something to the effect of, hey, we don't all agree on everything politically, but we can all have a beer together. It's something to that effect. And we would all be good, and it would do us all good to remember that our U.S. motto is, you know what it is? All of you know the Latin phrase, e pluribus unum, which means out of many, one. We've flipped that around in our country these days. Out of one, many. No, it's out of many. We are one. That's our national U.S. motto. So that's the first one, is that we're all in this together. How do we act when we're all in it together? That's a good way to start looking at that issue. So hatred and contempt is the second one. Hatred and contempt harm others as much as it harms ourselves. So what injures the hive injures the bee. Guess where that came from? Remember our long series that we've never finished? We'll hop into it again someday. The Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. What injures the hive injures the bee. So there's a contagion of contempt and hatred that's contaminating our social networks that are all within the United States. And what is sometimes referred to as emotional contagion are emotions spread within a social network or our social bubbles even. Much like a virus, we can spread our happiness and or unhappiness to others just by holding on to it. So, for example, when we're in a foul mood, I rarely have those due to my effervescent personality, but foul moods, especially after reading our curated news sources that blast the other side, our negativity spreads to others with whom we come in contact. I am very guilty of that. I will see things from the one point of the news that I like to look at, and the stories I like to invest my mental energy into, and I can come out of those really angry against the other side. The other side has their sources too. Now, we might be more negative in our interactions with our partners, our kids, our colleagues, our neighbors, or the barista at the coffee shop, rarely the bartender though. And in turn, they can spread that negativity to others. On some level, we all suffer for it because we can't be filled with rage and hatred and be peaceful and compassionate people at the same time. Some people accuse me of being too fair sometimes. I try to take a middle of the road stance, even though I make my viewpoints very well known. I try to be more middle of the road because I want people I disagree with to know I don't hate you. I have a contempt for the policies. I have a contempt for the things that are driving us apart. But I don't hate the individual. That's why even Thomas Jefferson said, I don't have the quote in front of me, he said something like, there's not a single political thing that can cause me to part ways with a friend. Now, somebody said, well, he did with Madison, didn't he? No, that was a little different. You have to see if they were actually truly close friends. Close friends don't give up close friends over political issues, over partisanship. The only way I could see myself doing that is if I knew that the partisanship from the other side of the point of view was damaging or killing my friends and my family, or leading us to destruction. I would still have to say, even in that sense, I love you and I care about you, but what you are doing is wrong, and I might have to take you out if you're going to keep down this path that is going to destroy me, my family, my loved ones, my neighbors, my country. But the big question is, can we be filled with rage and hatred and be peaceful and compassionate at the same time? With an understanding of how emotional contagion works, we can use this to our advantage. Just as there is truth to the adage, garbage in, garbage out, its opposite is also true. We might say goodness in, goodness out. That's it. I used to like, I don't care how liberal you think he is or what causes he stands for, the Dalai Lama. I liked reading his stuff. I had a daily, it's still sitting around here, is daily 365 that I hail to sometimes on the show. I haven't for a long time, but he was that way. He would say, we have garbage in, garbage out. How about saying we have goodness in and goodness out? Though deliberately cultivating feelings of peace and joy, we can positively affect people around us. If you work to cultivate that, to make that happen, deliberately cultivating feelings of peace and joy. And you don't have to be a mop to do it, or a doormat, or it doesn't have to be weirdness to look at somebody and say, oh, he's full of peace and joy. It's not that way. I believe I have a lot of peace and I have a lot of joy, though I have things that drive me nuts. I've got my own grievances. I've got my own issues from my past. I've got things that made me who I am, that make me angrier about some things than another person might get. I get angry at my kids because they don't clean up after themselves. I have a thing. I am not a neatnik. I'm not a white glover, but I am, and I'm not OCD, but I am obsessed with things being neat and clean and in their place. My wife, God love her, amazing woman, but almost every day she loses her keys or loses her wallet. And I've said a few times, sometimes in exasperation, sometimes because I love her, I'll say, you know what? Just put that thing in the same place every day. You'd find it the next time you're looking for it. My wife tends to be a person that's, I'm going to set that, walks in the house, throws that there. I don't know if she's found her keys yet from yesterday. So my key is taken off of my chain for the other car, so in case she can't find her keys. And but I lose things too, but usually very rarely and periodically. It's because I've taken something in my hand and I've walked around the house and I still have it in my hand and I set it down to do something and I walk away and I'm back here 2 hours later. I'm going, where's that thing I had? And I didn't realize I left it sitting on the kitchen counter. I do that all the time. But that's just an example I'm talking about. There's two ways of spreading light: to be the candle or to be the mirror that reflects the light. Sorry about the dinging. I haven't got my sound turned down on my phone again. And hopefully it's nobody from this show trying to get in and talk to me. I'm going to take just a second here on air to turn off all my sound. Here we go. Boom. Sound is off. There, now we shouldn't hear that interruption again, that dinging. So there are two ways of spreading light: be the candle or be the mirror that reflects the candle light. So the contempt, excuse me, the contempt that we develop not only spreads within our social networks, and I'm not talking about just social media out there, the media chat channels and things like that, but our social networks that we build in life. It doesn't just spread to those, but it also harms ourselves when we have contempt. While we might gain some positives through bonding with those who share our hatred for those dreaded others, being chronically filled with anger and hate takes its toll on our psychological and physical health. As we view the other side as enemies, worthy of our hatred, they become, in essence, existential threats to our survival. Our body's sympathetic nervous system is activated. Adrenaline and cortisol are released as our bodies go into the survival mode and prepare for the fight. Oh, well, I'll fight you. I'll fight you then. I always think of McLaughlin, not Charles McLaughlin. Who was it? Dave Potter, help me out. Played Red Will Danaher in, he was an Irish actor, big, tough guy, boxer, in The Quiet Man against John Wayne's character. And he was always looking for a fight, you know? So the problem, these existential threats, it won't go away. We pay a steep price in terms of our physical and mental health for holding on to feelings of anger, resentment, hatred, and contempt. You got your book? Squire, I've got the book. Write his name down in it. I've written his name, Squire. Now scratch a line through it. Red Will Danaher from the Quiet Man. That's breeding and fostering this whole feeling of anger and resentment, hatred and contempt. These are the things, they ruin us. So that was two things. Now the third thing, we have to see ourselves in others. Now I do this all the time with Joe Biden. I look at Joe Biden, I can say fuck Biden, I can say whatever I want to about him. As I've said many times, I don't blame him as the individual. He may not have ever had things that I agreed with politically, but I don't think he's the one calling the shots. I think he's a guy that should have retired 8 years ago, or 6 years ago, whatever it was, when he was done as vice president. His legacy was done. Do you think Joe Biden has helped his legacy by his presidency? No. Because it will always go down throughout the annals of time in his legacy that he may not have been legitimate. That question will always hang over his head. Then everything he's done to the country, the debt and the spending and the economy, oh boy, you name it. I think you could honestly say he's one of the worst presidents we've had in contemporary times. I'd take a Bill Clinton right now over a Joe Biden any day, and I'm talking about his policies. So, not that I would have voted for either, mind you. The Quiet Man says Cat was set in Ireland. Philip, John Wayne played an American. Yes, it took place in the 1920s in Ireland. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie if you've never seen it. So it's a movie I'd love to see. It sounds like heresy to a filmmaker like Uncle Dave or anybody else out there into films. I would love to see a remake of The Quiet Man, done well and done right. Or I'll fight you. So Professor Bauer says, mediocrity has been replaced with mediocrity. It's the goal of the current iteration of AI. There you go. No, John Wayne played an American. He was actually Irish born in that movie, his character. And his mother, his sweet mother, moved them all to America when he was a babe. And he grew up in Chicago. And he became a fighter. And now he's retiring as a fighter. He retired from the ring. A wealthy man, and he's gone back to Ireland where he was born. That's the basis, the backstory of the movie. So see ourselves in others. Resentment is the poison we drink hoping the other person's gonna die. Got that? It's attributed to the Buddha. Resentment is the poison we drink hoping the other person will die. When we focus on the differences with the vilified other's side, we create a chasm between us and them, which sometimes we think, oh, that's good. I want a chasm between us and them. But this is especially true when we see them as inferior to ourselves. What did you see the whole time Trump was the president? The attempt to dehumanize him. By dehumanizing something, you can then therefore demonize it. And you can call them inferior to yourself. Those others They're stupid. They're ignorant. They're uneducated. They're hateful. They're even evil. Evil, even. And once we've dehumanized them, it justifies our contemptuousness and even violent behavior towards them. This is particularly easy to do over social media when we don't even know these other people we're bashing. I hate the anonymity of social media. If you're going to say something raw about something, goddamn, put your face to it and your name. If I'm going to insult you, I'm going to give you my name. I don't like these people who like to insult you from the safe bushes of anonymity. I've told that to people over the years. Hey, I really don't care what you have to say because you can't even show me your real name. Put your real name to it. Then we'll have a starting point in discussion. Don't insult me from anonymity. It's worthless. What am I going to do? Drive to your house and throw a Molotov cocktail through your window? No. It's stupid. So the reality is that we have more in common with the other side than you might think we do, or than we give them credit for. Again, as the Dalai Lama described in The Art of Happiness, other people, just like us, want to be happy, and they don't want to suffer either. They love their friends and their family just like we do. Echoing the sentiments of Sting in his song Russians, which was released during the Cold War era, these Democrats and Republicans love their children too. Remember that song? That's not the words he used. He didn't say Democrats or Republicans, but he talked about even the oppressors love their children too. Ironically, our fellow Americans on the other side of the political fence are now our shared enemy instead of the Russians. We don't need the Russians anymore. We've got other Americans. It's like that song that I've quoted many times by Stan Rogers, The House of Orange, where he talks about no dollar of mine will I spend in your cause. He says, be it home rule or republic, all of it's the same. He says, I've given my heart to the place I was born, and not my forefathers' country far away. And meanwhile, my babies lay safe in their homes. Because I'm not part of that. I won't be part of that, he said. After all, it's only through chance that our consciousness is within our bodies and not someone else's. Only by chance. Answer that one for us, Doctor. I like to call you Doctor. You call him Doctor, Professor Bauer. Our consciousness, it's only by luck, in a sense, or through chance that our consciousness is within our bodies and not someone else's. We didn't choose our parents. We didn't choose the country or the year in which we were born. Unless you want to go up into the heavens and eternity past or whatever. Talking in the here and the now. We didn't choose our race or our ethnicity or our genetic makeup. Buddhist monk and spiritual teacher Thich Nhat Hanh captures this perspective beautifully in his poem, Please Call Me by My True Names. Seeing ourselves and others is how we build bridges of connection rather than digging chasms of separation. Now, his poem says this. I'm just going to read this. This is by Thich Nhat Hanh. He says, don't say that I will depart tomorrow. Even today, I'm still arriving. Look deeply. Every second I am arriving. To be a bud on a spring branch. To be a tiny bird with still fragile wings. Learning to sing in my new nest. To be a caterpillar in the heart of a flower. To be a jewel hiding itself in a stone. I still arrive. in order to laugh and to cry, to fear and to hope. The rhythm of my heart is the birth and death of all that is alive. I am the mayfly, metamorphosing on the surface of the river, and I'm the bird that swoops down to swallow the mayfly. And I don't know why he swallowed that mayfly. He may die. No, he didn't add that line. That's me editorializing. I'm the frog swimming happily in the clear water of a pond, and I'm the grass snake that silently feeds itself on the frog. I am the child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo sticks, and I'm the arms merchant selling deadly weapons to Uganda. I'm the 12-year-old girl refugee on a small boat who throws herself into the ocean after being raped by a sea pirate. And I am the pirate, my heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. I'm a member of the Politburo with plenty of power in my hands, and I am the man who has to pay his debt of blood to my people dying slowly in forced labor camps. My joy is like spring, so warm. It makes flowers bloom all over the earth. My pain is like a river of tears, so vast it fills the oceans. Please call me by my true names, so I can hear all my cries and my laughter at once, so I can see that my joy and pain are one. Please call me by my true name so I can wake up, and so the door of my heart can be left open, the door of compassion. Seeing ourselves in others is how we build bridges of connection rather than digging chasms of separation. Number 4 is be humble and flexible. Thus, whoever is stiff and inflexible is a disciple of death. Whoever is soft and yielding is a disciple of life. That's from Lao Tzu, from the Tao Te Ching. We all would like to think that we have a corner on the truth, but truth is elusive in this complicated world. We didn't evolve to see truth. We evolved to survive. And historically, this meant that tribal loyalties were essential to our survival, which is why tribal triumphs trumps truth. Tribalism trumps truth. And what is known as an in-group or a my side bias, we unconsciously distort reality to maintain our current beliefs and our group allegiances. Yet the wicked problems of this world do not fit neatly into dualistic views of our side is right and you guys are idiots. If we want the truth to set us free, we have to be humble and flexible. Rigid adherence to one's tribe or one's version of truth is the root of much unnecessary suffering and death in our history. Number 5, we influence one another through a relationship. If we truly want to influence people on this other side to change their hearts, to change their minds, we aren't going to do it through treating them with disrespect and contempt. Now, I will admit, I sometimes put out disrespect and contempt to those who treat me with disrespect and contemptuousness. Sometimes I have the wherewithal to be kind and polite and to think my way through something professionally, but there are times I'm like, look, asshole, if you call me that again, or whatever, knock your chops off. So have you ever changed someone's deeply held, reflect on this for a second, folks. Have you ever deeply changed someone's deeply held beliefs through an angry tirade? Have you ever really changed them? Has it ever worked on you? And what's known as the backfire effect, we're more likely to strengthen their original beliefs by blasting them with hatred and contempt. So our best chance at influencing others is by having a relationship with them. My friend of 26 years who parted ways with me didn't realize that perhaps if he had tried strengthening our relationship, he might have won me over to some of his points of view. He didn't try that, though. He chose the option of hatred and contempt. Of course, this means if we open ourselves up to have that relationship, they might influence us as well. So you're still going to come to sometimes differences of opinion. That takes us back to the first one, that cliche of you have to agree to disagree sometimes. Now let's have a beer. Connecting with others who have different ideas and different beliefs than we do provides opportunities for us to learn and grow. Perhaps we can even see that they, like us, are doing their best they can make sense out of the crazy world in which we all live. Maybe that's their goal. Got to make sense of things. And I have some things from Abraham Lincoln that I thought. I've left myself about 9 minutes, 8 minutes. And so I'm going to dive into this a little bit because I brought him up as an example very early on in this. Divided America, what can we learn today from Abraham Lincoln? There's 5 things we can learn from Abraham Lincoln to help heal our divided society. And we'll see if we can get through these. Our country today, as I've stated, is angrier and more divided than almost ever before. And only during the Civil War did we find a time of greater national discord. But we had Abraham Lincoln during that tumultuous era to help us mediate our near-fatal conflict. We have all these writings about Lincoln and what he was and what he did for our country, his character traits, agent of history, and so on. But what was he like personally? What can we learn from him? In researching material on Lincoln's psychological biography, which, by the way, you want to talk about Lincoln, go look up Dan Madsen, who you've heard his name many times on this show, a good friend of mine. He's got a little museum and library of Lincoln in his home in Denver. Here are some things in particular, and pardon my cough, I just can't get rid of it yet. Doc said a few weeks. It's going to hang on. It'll be gone one day and I won't even notice it. So the first one is humility. When Lincoln first ran for political office in Illinois, he pledged that if his opinions on any subject turned out to be erroneous, he was ready to renounce them. He was willing to acknowledge his errors and learn from his mistakes. Later, after serving one term in the U.S. Congress, he returned home to plunge into his growing and successful legal practice. And in his time, judges, lawyers, witnesses, and bailiffs all traveled together on the circuit for 8 weeks each spring and fall. It was a time of high excitement, and Lincoln's reputation was steadily building. He had an elevated standing among those who participated in the judicial system on the circuit. But each evening at the dinner table, at the tavern, where the seating reflected the relative rankings in the court, Lincoln always settled himself at the foot among the common clientele. No lawyer was more unassuming than Mr. Lincoln, a fellow lawyer once recalled. He claimed for himself no superiority over anyone, not even the most obscure member of the bar. So humility was one of his most common traits. Think of that when you're thinking of divisiveness. Humility. 2, ambition. Now that's another term that's frequently used to describe Lincoln. Ambition. It might seem paradoxical that someone characterized as humble can also be said to be ambitious, but Lincoln wasn't ambitious for himself or for personal glory, but was ambitious to do good and be helpful to other people. He once said to his early law partner, William Herndon, how hard it would be to die and leave one's country no better than if one had never lived. Wow. So Lincoln had a huge ambition to make his life better and better for his fellow countrymen. 3, he recognized his ability. When he was still a very young man, he was offered a job as a clerk in the general store in New Salem, Illinois. He was perfect for the job. The job was perfect for him. The store is a local gathering place. Lincoln's friendly, open nature, he made friends amongst the customers. And the political discussions that often happened late in the afternoons gave him an opportunity to begin honing his storytelling skills. He began to realize he had some unusual abilities. You know, that reminds me, and I've mentioned the story here before, my great-grandfather was murdered on November 22nd of 1926. No, November 2nd of 1926. In a setting like this, a little store where they were all drinking soda pops. The boys would hang out. It was also the post office. And some guy who disagreed with him politically from the elections earlier that day came and shot him in the chest with a shotgun, killed him, and he went up and down the street waving his gun over his head saying, "I just killed that goddamn Republican." So interesting. He also saw where he fell short, Lincoln did. That's number 4. Though he had successes along the way, he was his own severest critic. Another time, even though he is well along toward building a successful law practice, he said, "I am not an accomplished lawyer," and he began a long, intensive, in-depth study of the law. He wasn't afraid to admit his deficiencies. And then he also was a resolver of conflict. Lincoln was not someone who held grudges. He always worked hard to build good relationships with those who opposed him. He was a good listener. He had empathy for others, and he possessed a great generosity of spirit. So those are the 5, and I ran through them kind of quick because we're at the end of the radio portion of this show. So all of those of you over listening by radio, I want to say thanks for being here. Thanks for giving me your time. I appreciate it. And we're going to get out of here. Stick around for the Captain's Cabin over on the YouTube channel. And we'll spend a little bit of time in there tonight. So for now, radio audience, live long and prosper.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid Radio Program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hey, folks, welcome to the captain's cabin. It's that time of night, and I'm kind of not having a lot of oomph these days to continue on for a second hour after the show, because I'm working all day long too. If I got up at 6 o'clock in the evening and only had my 2 to 3 hour radio show to do, then I might have more energy for it. If I, basically fucked off during the day. So, pardon my French. I love the word fuck. It's the best word available. Anita Palmer said, I found this when you signed off. Seems there was always been division in politics. The Senate had just adjourned on May 22nd, 1856, when Representative Preston Brooks entered its chamber carrying a cane. The pro-slavery Southerner walked over to Senator Charles Sumner, whacked him in the head with the cane, then proceeded to beat the anti-slavery Northerner unconscious. Afterward, Brooks walked out of the chamber without anyone stopping him. I think they've passed new legislation that says you can't assault a fellow member of Congress or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's always been with us. As a matter of fact, the founding fathers made room in the Constitution for the way the legislature is supposed to operate. They made room for differences of opinion, for fighting and infighting. All of that's built in. Whacking somebody with a cane on the head to unconsciousness probably wasn't what they were thinking, but they did things a little differently 200 years ago, didn't they? 250 years ago, 150 years ago, 170 years ago, almost exactly, 167. So Philip Blair says, I only thought of only two political figures I love who were well known in 1926, both Republicans, Secretary of Agriculture Henry Wallace Sr. and Senator Fightin' Bob La Follette. So that's cool. I don't know what election it was. It was a midterm, whatever it was, for 1926. My great-grandfather was a man of maybe 30 to 32 years old. He was well known in town. I found out he was what they called a garage man. I don't know what that meant, frankly. If anybody knows what the definition of that would have been, he lived in Ohio, more rural Ohio, and a little bit into Kentucky. I think they went from Kentucky into Ohio. And they, but he was said to wear a suit and tie an awful lot. And I've got that old picture of him he's very dapper. He wore a fedora and he had a suit on in this picture. It's pretty cool. And I probably have shown it in here before, but if I can find it here quickly, I'll share it with you again. But let's see if I've got him in here. Let's see. His name was Stephen Foster Roberts. Oh, I thought I had him in here. I guess he's not in here. That's interesting that he's not on my computer anywhere. try one more location. Oh, he's not in there. That's weird. I know where I've got a picture of him, but if I can find it while we're talking, I'll show it. But yeah, he was murdered for his beliefs, and he wasn't a martyr or anything like that. They were all talking, and there was some young guy that the postmaster thought he was drunk, told him to get out now. Aubrey Edwards was his name. He said, "Get out, Aubrey. You go home." This was a kid, 19 to 21 years old, something like that. And he was disputing, and my great-grandfather was sitting on the countertop, and they were all drinking soda pop. Believe it or not, they were at the post office, which was also a little general store. And so there he is. He's sitting on that countertop, and Aubrey Edwards leaves. Well, he comes back a little while later, and he's got a shotgun under his arm. And he comes in and he starts arguing with my great-grandfather again, Stephen Roberts. And he points the shotgun at him. Well, my great-grandfather hops down off the countertop, takes a step toward Edwards, and says, "You drop that gun now, you damn fool," or something like that. Edwards shoots him. And right square in the chest. I don't know if it hit his heart right away or just below the heart, but they threw him in the back of a pickup truck. That's all they had there. And drove him, I think it was about 15 miles to the hospital. And he died 3 hours later. Here it is. I found a picture of him. Let's see if I can get this for you, and I'll show you what he looks like. Those of you who haven't seen, I think this is kind of fun. It goes with the story. So I will open this up, and I'll save it in a format where I can import it into the YouTube channel. Here it is. Save as Stephen Foster Roberts. And I have to save it as a PDF. It's all a little thick. So boom, and boom, and boom. There we go. I'm going to import it in so you can see who I'm talking about. Those of you, many of you have seen this show before, have seen this picture before. Because I've talked about it in the past. But let's get him up in here. Upload the file. It would be over here where I saved it. And Stephen Foster Roberts. Let's get him in here. So, Hate Inc., says Philip Blair. Why Today's Media Makes Us Despise One Another is a 2019 non-fictional book by Matt Taibbi. Oh, Matt Taibbi. I don't know him personally. I've talked to him in the past through a good friend of mine, my friend Carr Hagerman. Knew Matt back in his early days. And I met him in a very brief, during the COVID years, I think is when we met him. My friend Carr would have a little Zoom broadcast that he would do every day. Not a broadcast, it wasn't a radio show. It was just friends. He would send out the link to friends. He said, since we all can't get together, we're all sequestered, he says, let's all meet here. And we did that once a week, a Tuesday night or something, and back 3 years ago. And so we would meet at a certain time, 7 o'clock on Tuesday evening, and a whole bunch of us were in there talking. And Matt Taibbi and his wife were in there one night, came in and talked to an old friend of Carr's. So I got to talk to him a little bit that way. But here, this is my, let me turn off the scroll bar as well, down at the bottom. This is my great-grandfather. There he is. That is Stephen Foster Roberts. And he was the man. This had to be taken not much longer before he was killed, by the look of his age here, early 30s. And he was gunned down by somebody who didn't like his politics. And I actually had somebody, speaking of all this hate and division, somebody back before the last presidential election, in 2020, I had somebody who was a friend of mine who she wrote me and said she was very much anti-Trump and very much pro getting Trump out of office. And she said, she asked me in a text, she said, I hope you have guns. And I said, yeah, why do you ask? And she said, well, because if Trump wins, you're going to need them. She said, because I know that there are people out there that will start a rebellion and I'll be with them. I said, are you saying that you would attack me and my family? And so I need a gun? And she was very vague about that. And I said, is this the unity that you're looking for? And I said, I tell you what. I said, I think the last thing you'd want to do is attack me and my family if Trump wins the election. And she says, I just want you to be safe. Now, this woman is also a very good friend of the friend of mine that ended our friendship of 26 years over who I voted for. So that gives you an idea of what some of these people are like. Can somebody shoot somebody over politics? Yeah, and it isn't just right-wing nut extremists. This was somebody who was a dyed-in-the-wool liberal, socialist, democratic, progressive. And I did say to her, I said, you know, that could be understood as a terroristic threat if you're not careful. Now, by the way, I had also known this woman. When did I meet her? With my buddy who ended our friendship. He was part of the reenacting stuff that we did back in the 90s. So I met her in 1996, I want to say. So I met her in 1996. You know, you do the math. That's now close to 30 years ago. It was probably about 22 to 23 years before she made these comments to me. We had known each other that long. So there you go. That's what people do. Hey, Susie Q. Chuck Thurston said, my great-grandfather was chief of police for Reno and sheriff of Washoe County, Nevada. By all reports, a very harsh man. I know for a fact he'd killed at least 8 men in gunfights. Now, did he, from what you heard of those stories, Chuck, that's interesting, colorful stories in our family trees. Did he kill them defending himself? It was gunfight. Was there any talk of him being harsh and unjust when he killed these people? Or was his life threatening? He needed to do what he did. It's interesting. Philip Blair says, I voted a split ticket, often do. I vote usually for if it's a party, it's the candidate and those that support that candidate's policies. If I think that that is going to do better for our country, even if I don't like everybody down the middle, I would vote for somebody to say, and sometimes I have given protest votes. Never a protest, I don't like this guy, so I'm going to vote for the other guy because even though he's a scumbag, I will vote, my protest vote will be, I might want somebody else in, but I will vote for this guy because he's the only one who can win against that guy if he wins. So I've voted that way before. Kat says, my cousin was chief of police in Pendleton, Oregon for 30 years. He was fired for closing the brothels. Oh, a lot of guys upset with him, huh? For closing down the brothels. Let's see. I see Barbie D saying we did. I'm not sure what you're responding to there. Barbie D. Let's see. There was lots of good comments during the show, but I had to forge through the material rather than stop. That's a bit why we have the captain's cabin, so we can recap a little bit. Kat says, to be fair, Stanbury did try to shoot him. I missed part of that story. Sam Houston clobbered a congressman with a cane in 1832. Well, that's because Stanbury did try to shoot him. Yeah, I'd clobber anybody who tried to shoot me if I wasn't shot already and dead. You got to figure if somebody's shooting at you and you're going down, you got no place to go, you better just rush the dude and try to do your best. Let's see. I have zero oomph lately, says Kat. I'm getting real tired of back spasms. Gross. Yeah. I get muscle spasms every now and then. I'm finding, for me, I'm not saying this is for you. For me, it's probably because I don't stretch and do yoga like I'm supposed to. So for me, I need to do that. I wake up in the morning, I'm always sore from the bottom of my rib cage, in the back, bottom of my rib cage down to my hips. I'm just like, oh man. And you try to do your stretches, oh, I'm going to stretch. And you go, oh, I'm stuck. Oy, 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 oy. Oh, that felt good, really. Let's try the other side. Oh. Are you supposed to be able to reach all the way down and touch your ankle that way? Not this cat. Can't touch my opposite ankle by bending over that way. Hey, there's Uncle Dave. Let's bring Uncle Dave in. Hey, Uncle Dave.
How are you?
I'm dandy. Not a dandy, just dandy. How are you?
There's nothing wrong with being a dandy. I'd still love you.
Oh, that's true. Oh, who ties your cravat in the morning?
Surely you're not going to wear those polka dots with those stripes.
Certainly not.
Good God, man.
Good God, man. Silk and linen. Let's see. I need to hydrate more, says Chuck Thurston. Otherwise, all I do is get cramps. Yeah, there's cramps.
What?
I get cramps in
Chuck, it's right in your name. Thirst. Fucking drink, man.
Whoosh. And yeah, I get cramps in weird places these days. I get cramps like in the bottom of my foot. I'll be laying in bed and I'm watching TV and I move my feet and it goes, and I'm like, oh my God. And I get a lot of inner thigh, groin, I guess you go from groin down to the knee. It's like on the inside of my leg. It's like, whoa, I get those a lot. And I'm like, what the hell?
Potassium, dude.
I haven't used those muscles for a month. Why the hell are they hurting?
You're low on potassium.
Low on potassium. Go eat a banana.
Eat a big baked potato. Drink a bunch of orange juice because they add potassium to it.
So I'll stand in the kitchen and throw a potato in the oven and stand there in pain for 45 minutes waiting for it to cook.
If I'd have known, I'd have brought you. I have a bunch of potassium pills. I'd have brought you one.
I'll take Tums. I'll throw 3-4 Tums in my mouth and chew them up. The flavored kind, though. I like cherry.
Yeah, cherry. I like cherry chop too, but
Yeah. Well, that's what I found. I only take those when I need them. Like when I have the cramps, I'll down.
You might as well just go downstairs and eat some of your pastels.
Yeah. I can find them. Just as tasty. Hey, Beth Kirkham. Hey, Zumba, Beth. Here I come, she said. Tomorrow I will get up and join a gym.
Dan Madsen was over on the Facebook side tonight.
What's that?
Dan Madsen was over on the Facebook side.
Oh, good. Tonight. I didn't see him. So, love Dan Madsen.
Yep. Sent out a hello to him. Very
good.
So, yeah, I don't know why people bother to sign in through the Facebook side. If you're going to sit and watch there, jump on the YouTube and join the real chat.
Yeah.
People.
At least watch the chat here. Yeah. Because that chat doesn't always transfer over.
It doesn't ever transfer over.
I see it here.
You
But
see
I
it
don't think people
because
can
you
see it.
get both chat groups
I
into
get all
your
the groups
screen.
show up in my chat room
Right.
and stream.
But it doesn't show up on the other side. If you
People
type
can't see
something into Facebook, it won't come over to the YouTube side at all.
There it is. It only comes to
And,
me. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I generally do is I have my tablet logged in and I have my phone logged in, and I usually listen through the tablet and do the chat through the phone because it's easier.
Yeah.
Because I can do voice to text and stuff like that through the phone.
Sure.
But I'm doing it backwards tonight. So,
Hey, Sterling.
hey, Sterling.
What's up,
How you doing, brother?
What's up, Dave? How y'all doing?
Good.
Hey, good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being head.
Yeah, I just tuned in. What are you guys talking about tonight?
Oh, we talked about divisiveness in America.
Civility.
And,
That's a short conversation.
Yeah,
it
well,
is.
there's no reason you can't disagree with somebody and still find love in your heart for that person
There it is.
and such. And that's really what people need to do.
Well, I disagree, but I have love in my heart for you.
There you go. There you go, man.
There it is.
Check it out. I'm over here in Colombia. I think I should.
I know.
Colombia.
Jesus.
You looking at the ocean right now there? Yeah, I think you are.
So you're doing part-time work for the cartel, or what are you doing?
Retired from part-time work from the cartel. Yeah. What gave it away? What gave it away? That's what I want to know.
Colombia.
Colombia.
I love it down here. The people are great. It's beautiful. The culture's great. The food's great. Prices are phenomenal. The women are gorgeous. The weather's nice. I love it here.
And you're a young man. You can take advantage of all of that.
And you can afford to live there.
Oh, so could you? Most people could
That's
too.
what I mean. It's more affordable, is how I meant to state that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's so much cheaper. But before we move on, and the reason why I joined was because months ago I had a good discussion back and forth with Professor Bauer.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's in the chat tonight. I'm not sure.
He was in the show earlier. He was in the chat.
Oh, I missed him. Well, I had
Prof.
Yeah, I recommended this one stream that I go to. I think we did a flying man experiment on the show.
Yeah.
It didn't go really that well, but it came from a channel called Pine Creek. And I wanted to give a shout out to Professor Bauer because he apparently called in to Pine Creek's channel the other day, this week. And even though I guess we had spoke about it months ago, and yeah, he and Pine Creek had like a 30-minute conversation, and I just saw the clip of it.
That's easy to do with the professor.
Yeah, that's his greeting. So he got his greeting in.
Yeah, he said I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. And then you know how that goes, Scotty, right?
You're not gonna Bauer it?
Professor Bauer.
I'm just gonna Bauer a little of your time. Shouldn't take more than 3 or 4 hours.
He has this wonderfully charming habit of calling into my show 3 minutes before I'm supposed to be done.
Right.
I
And you know I love you, Professor.
A short statement on what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, right. We love Professor Bauer. We just like to rib him.
And yeah, I was about to say, as much as I want to beat up on him when he's not here to defend himself, I appreciate him going on that channel. And if y'all ever get the chance to watch it, it's very fascinating. And he showed a lot of courage by just calling in because, well, you know how it is when you go into the lion's den.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you see him,
he ain't a Fiat.
He ain't a Fiat. No, that man ain't a Fiat.
No. And I said, I kind of threw my hands up and said, shrugged. I said, hey, I don't know what to do with this old rascal, Professor Bauer. I'm gonna hand him off to Pine Creek. And then after 35 minutes, Pine Creek said, I don't know what to do with this rascal, Professor Bauer. So I don't know where he's
the same thing.
He's coming back to you, Scotty.
Yeah.
He gave you a shout out.
Bauer.
He gave you a shout out too. He was like, I was on a podcast, and Pine Creek was like, oh yeah, which one? And he gave your podcast a shout out.
Oh, very cool. Thank you, Professor Bauer, wherever you may be.
Yeah.
So,
but anyway, so when you see him, tell him I said thank you.
I will do that. If he doesn't show up before we're done here, which is not going to be too long. We've already gone almost a half an hour, and I'm baked. Well, not good baked. I'm tired baked. So, it's just the way it is lately. Start the day early, and then I do this show, and I'm like, oof, I'm done. So
Yeah.
I don't have the late night chops I used to have. I just
Understand.
like, unless I take a good long nappy time in the afternoon, I'm worthless after 10 o'clock.
Same here, but like
I took a nap today.
Yeah. What time?
Yeah. I went to bed at 5:30 and got up at 8.
Nice.
I laid down at some point. I don't even know what time it was. We had friends over and their kids were over and they were all playing. And I'm like, I'm going downstairs. I went to my office and did a little work. And I sat here. I'm working and I nod off. And I'm like, okay, I got to go lay down. So I lay down. And
That's exactly what I did.
I woke up around 6:30 tonight. I don't know what time I laid down. Probably about 5-ish. So
I was in the studio working on digital composites for paintings I'm getting ready to do,
Right
and
on.
laid my head back because my eyes were tired, and woke up and went, oh. So then I went over and laid down on the bed for a while, and boom, out like a light.
There it is. Sarah Yusuf says, survive daylight savings? Oh, yeah. Daylight savings, I'm impervious to daylight savings time because my sleep schedule is so erratic anyway.
I don't even bother
last
to
an
change
hour?
the clock in
Really?
the studio.
So, what?
I don't even bother to change the clock. I just do the math.
Yeah.
I don't
Too
even,
lazy
I,
to change the clock.
I don't even know what day it is, let alone what time.
You're in Cartagena.
I wish I remember when I was that age.
I don't know what day it is, but it's a good one, I think.
They say Tuesday, I say okay, and then they say, "What time is it?" 6:30, and I say, "Oh, okay." A.M.
Tuesday.
A.M. P.M.
What month is it?
Hey, it was nice catching up with you guys.
Good to catch up with you too, Sterling.
Take it easy, guys.
Thanks for showing us a little bit of Cartagena again tonight.
Cheers.
See you later, brother.
Yep, take it easy.
All right, we got Preston is here too. Let's bring Preston in. Or Pearson. I always want to say Preston. It's a mental block. Pearson,
Nah.
Every time I hear Cartagena, I think of the Seahawk with Errol Flynn. The scene where they, or was it no? Yeah, it was Seahawk, and they're sharing dinner with the love interest. I can't think of the woman's name, and they're talking about the different wines. And the one, no, not in that one. And she's a brunette. Can't think of her name. She played the daughter of the Spanish viceroy or whatever. Anyways, all the pirates are sitting around talking about stuff, and they're talking about the cheese or the wine they took from Cartagena and stuff.
Yes. The cheese from Cartagena. It was Brenda Marshall.
Yeah.
Let's see who was in that movie. Errol Flynn, Brenda Marshall, Claude Rains,
yeah.
Alan Hale Sr., who was in a million movies with Errol Flynn.
Always played his sidekick. I loved Alan Hale. Alan Hale is one of my favorites.
And his son. I cried when his son died.
Yeah.
Who played the skipper on Gilligan's Island. Guys, if you don't remember that. Let's see who else was in that. Flora Robson, Donald Crisp, and Henry Danielle. Now, I don't know any of the last three. Henry Danielle, I recognize him, but the Seahawk.
Yeah. Excellent film.
Great.
Captain
movie.
Blood, also an excellent.
Captain Blood. Oh,
such an excellent film.
I've got the soundtrack installed. You know, when I first heard, I didn't even think that the soundtracks were available. It was back in, it was about 10, 11, 12 years ago, something like that. I'm outside doing some work, and I got the radio playing, and I'm playing 91.1, PBS, not PBS, Minnesota Public Radio.
Yeah.
And the music station, not the news station, the classical station. And I tune in and I turn on this music and it's dun 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 dun, and I'm listening. I'm going, that is so familiar. I said, I will bet you that is from an Errol Flynn movie. And sure enough, they go, at their end, and we had so and so's composition of the Seahawk, and I'm like, yes. And just here, I'll get a copyright hit for this if I do it too long, but
Yeah, don't risk it.
no. It's right here. I'm gonna just play it in the background. Let's see. I've got it in here. Let's see where it is. It's not the Seahawk, but the
Theme from Captain Blood.
maybe it was Seahawk. Is the one that I really like. Let's see if it's in here. It should be right here by albums.
I'm trying to think of the composer. The composer was the John Wood of there, or
Here it is.
John Wood. John.
The
Who's
Seahawk. Here you go. I'm going to turn this way up. Listen to this.
Who is the?
Here, listen.
Who's the composer from Star Wars?
John Williams.
John Williams. So the composer of this was like the John Williams of his time. He just did tons of scores for.
This is Charles Gurnt and the National Philharmonic Orchestra. I don't know if you can hear it well because it's secondhand pump. There was more to this song than more to what I was thinking of. Hold on. And of course, The Adventures of Robin Hood. Who could miss that one? Listen to this. You'll recognize this, folks. If I can call it up. Won't play for me. Well.
Is my microphone working okay tonight, guys?
Hey, yes, Pearson, it is. I'm just trying to play a piece of music here and it won't play for me. Oh,
Gotcha.
well.
It's all good.
Not eligible. Like I hate Apple Music.
Just get so wild up there.
Yeah. I hate it because all this music I gathered over the years, I paid for individual pieces of music 10 years ago. And I've got all these albums in here. And now you have to have an Apple iMusic in order to play it on an Apple computer. What?
Yeah.
I got to pay a membership every month. And it's like, are you kidding me? So that really pisses me off.
How's the GIMP doing today?
Oh, she's fine. She was fine a couple of days ago. Oh, you saw her last night. So.
Saw her last night. How so did Rowan come back and freak out about the suitcase?
Yeah, she did. Well, we told her at one point, well, he's going to have to come back then.
So,
said, well, we'll tell you something. So we said, it's here in the house.
I bought this suitcase for Rowan because she called me up in the middle of the week one day and said, oh, I found this suitcase. It's on sale and I can't buy it. Uncle Dave, buy me this suitcase. Yeah. Oh my God.
Because she came to mom and dad said, nah, you don't need a suitcase right now.
So my brother's daughter is the manager of TJ Maxx, and she said it was at TJ Maxx. So I said, I'll give Megan a call. Megan, do you have these in stock? Yeah, she had one in stock. I said, pull it aside. I'll pay for it. And so I let Rowan know that I had it. And that was like a month ago. Yep. And this girl, like, not every day, but every week, several times a week, will you be here today with my suitcase? No, I won't. It just and I'm just completely like nonplussed by it. No, I won't be there today. I've got other stuff I'm doing. And so day before yesterday, I called her and said, okay, tomorrow I'll be up in that area. I'll swing by with a suitcase. So when I get there, she's over at a friend's house and isn't planning to be home that night. And so I took a picture of it in her living room and sent it to her. And she's like, oh. And I said, you're not here. I'm taking it home. And so that I had to put it in the closet. So when she came in, she's like, no, just leave it in my room. Just leave it in my room, please.
Are you, Kat, did you say Jay Silverheels was in the Seahawk? I remember him being in Key Largo. with Bogey and Bacall.
Played one of the Seminoles.
Yeah, he played a Seminole Indian in that. Then he went on to play Tonto in the Lone Ranger in the 60s.
Well, he could have been. There was that point where they in the Seahawk where they're in Panama.
Yeah.
And so as Hollywood did in the time, they just took a conglomerate of things. So he's kind of a Francis Drake character, but they didn't want to make it about Francis Drake. So they created the character of Jeffrey Thorpe and then had him do things that Drake did.
Yeah.
So the raid on Panama, that was a Drake thing. It was also a Captain Morgan thing later in.
It was
in
interesting. I saw a clip, and I don't know who it was because I saw the clip. I didn't see, and I'm like, tell me who I'm looking at. Tell me who I'm looking at. And it didn't. Asian guy accepting an Oscar. And there were a bunch of Asians standing with him. And he made the statement. He says, back in the old days, he says in Hollywood, if they needed a Chinese man, he said it was always a white actor that had his eyes taped back like this, and a little color put on his skin. And he was referencing some specific movie. And so the producers came back and said, oh, they just don't look Chinese enough. Where are we going to find Chinese actors? And he held up his Oscar and he goes, we're here now. And he says, and he was treating it very lightheartedly. He wasn't like our oppressed Chinese forebears.
Well, but even you go back to that same time and they're having white people play Mexicans and white people play Native Americans and stuff. And it's like, you're in the Southwest. You're surrounded by indigenous people. Let them play themselves. It's like, how hard is that?
Who was there was some famous actor that played an Indian. I'm not thinking Charles Bronson.
And just to prove that, how hard is it to find someone from China in California?
Not very.
I'm just saying.
Iron Irish Cody was Italian, says Chuck Thurston.
Drive north and you go to this place called San Francisco. And in San Francisco, there's a whole giant area called Chinatown. Possibly you'll find somebody of Chinese descent there.
Possibly. You don't have to tape their eyes back or nothing.
They even have their own wardrobe. It's amazing.
Yeah. So, especially in Chinatown, said Sarah.
What's up with you tonight, Pierce? Don't just sit there and be quiet. Jump into the conversation.
Jump in, brother.
I have a few interesting experiences that I've had and upcoming things that are going to be pretty cool here pretty soon. My experience that I had a couple weeks ago, I think I had said I was going to tell on the show, then I completely forgot what I was doing and I didn't put it in the live chat. But a few weeks ago, I was home alone by myself and just kind of hanging out. And I got a weird, of course, the little weird feeling that you get every now and then, the tingles running down your neck, someone's watching you feeling. And I got it pretty severely, and I was, getting it, especially around eastern parts of my house for some odd reason, where by where our dining room and areas like that were. We have a back deck that I had just came inside from. And the minute I came in the back door is when I started to get the feeling. Well, I had this creepy feeling. It was kind of following me around, and it was making me a bit more exasperated than anything. I was just like, not today. I'm not dealing with this today. I was just a little bit peeved with it.
Sure.
Well, I went into, I was getting ready to take a shower, and I was coming around the corner, and there was a bunch of shoes in the way of my wheelchair, and I went over them and just about flipped the chair. So I punched the armrest like 3 or 4 times in irritation, and I kid you not, I was on the phone. I had just called my girlfriend right about that time, and I was telling her I have a creepy feeling. And she was like, did you just punch something? What was that noise? And I kid you not. Probably 5 seconds after that, I was getting ready to tell her I had just smacked the edge of my wheelchair, the armrest, getting irritated. And something literally banged on the wall 4 times. Literally same rhythm, exact same timing as I did on my wheelchair. And of course, she heard it and she goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, the first time that was me banging on my wheelchair. The second time, I have no idea what that was." And of course, she was confused, and I was, being home alone and not knowing what was going on, a bit creeped out because it was, 5 o'clock in the evening, of course, so it's starting to get dark and whatnot. So, just had the creepy feeling, and it went away very soon after that had happened, oddly enough. I just completely lost the feeling after about 10 minutes. But I remember right before, you could feel the tension just rising in the air. And it was just like, you knew something was about to happen. But, it was just a odd little footnote. I think, if anything, if it really was anything, likely something just playing around with me a bit. But it was a little bit interesting.
What is Sarah Youssef says sounds like PK manifestation. What's PK, Sarah? That's not a poltergeist term, is it? What's a PK manifestation? Sarah will either call in or she'll type it in the chat room. Oh, psychokinetic. Got it.
I wondered about things like that before because, especially the other day. And the two theories I had is either it was mocking me, or if it wasn't residual energy or poltergeist type, if it was actually a spirit, it was either mocking me, or I thought about it the other day. I was like, wait a second, this was right after she asked the question. So I was like, it's either mocking me or answering her question, possibly.
That's sometimes how you tell events from coincidence. Is sometimes you get a direct answer to a question or a direct response to something you've said or done, and that usually, for me, trumps out the coincidence factor. If I ask somebody to knock 3 times and right at the end of my sentence I hear, that's not the wind blowing the shutter. So.
Yeah, that was my conclusion, because honestly, it was very abrupt too. It was, it was the right, perfect timing. Not even 4 or 5 seconds after she asked, "What was that?" And I was like, getting ready to speak up, and same cadence, same rhythm, and almost same muffled noise that I had tapped on my wheelchair, and I was just like, well, something's messing with me.
I have a problem. Some people are talking about this psychokinesis thing, how we can mentally create or alter local reality. I look at that and I say, what's harder to believe? That there might be the spirit of somebody that's gone on before that can make noise, or that I can make noise out of nothingness with my mind? And I look at that and I go, well, the one would say, if I believe I can do it with my mind, I can do that and easily then deny the possibility that there are spirits or ghosts that live on or whatever it might be. On the other hand, it's a great way to explain away something. At the same time, it's you're really just saying then the power of the mind is greater than we think it is if it has the ability to create sounds out of nothingness because we alter our reality. It's interesting. Pearson's gone. So somebody was talking about Warner Olin and Charlie Chan. I remember Sidney Toller playing Charlie Chan. You talk about Caucasians playing Chinese guys. We used to watch that when we were kids. The old black and white.
But his kids were actual Chinese kids.
Mm-hmm. And so it was very interesting to see him. That didn't change his ethnicity, though.
No,
But
but
he did a
it's
great
interesting
job.
that they brought Chinese actors in to play his family, but used a Caucasian to play the
Mhm.
lead.
Yeah. Habeas corpus, Chuck Thurston. Habeas corpus. So I believe that created some of what I have seen. You know, we talk about tulpas, though, too. The creation of tulpas out of nothing. So it's an interesting theory. I think I always bristled at the notion of psychokinesis because it was used to try to explain away something else when it was just as magical, if you will, as anything else. Power of the mind to bend a spoon.
Who do?
You do. That
Do
voodoo
what?
you do so well. Remember that Cary Grant and Shirley Temple?
I was thinking of from Labyrinth.
Oh, I thought of the old Cary Grant movie. The what in the Bobby Soxer? The
Bachelor in the Body Sox.
Bachelor and the Bobby Soxer. And Shirley
Cary
Temple.
Grant and Shirley Temple.
Shirley
Yeah.
Temple grown up in that, might I say, a rather fetching older teenager.
And critically, it didn't do well because people
Yep.
just couldn't quite accept the fact
They
that Shirley Temple wasn't
couldn't
4
accept
anymore.
her that she was not 4 or 5 years old, the cute little kid singing. She had boobs and legs and was kind of pretty.
She was hot.
She was hot.
Yeah.
Playing against Cary Grant. Cary Grant. And so, yeah, that was good stuff. I always liked Sidney Toller. You know, when I was a kid, my kid said, "Oh, you were in the era of those old black and white movies." I'm like, no. I grew up in the late 60s, yes, but we had color television, but we didn't have color television. So I grew up with a little black and white TV. We never knew anything was in color till I was like 13. And so we're watching old Sidney Toller as Charlie Chan or the Three Stooges or Laurel and Hardy, old Captain Blood, Errol Flynn movies, Robin Hood, everything, and Star Trek and Lost in Space, everything was in black and white.
Yep.
Until I was about 13, we got a color TV.
I tell this story, and I'm sure I've told it on air before, but so our pirate troop, we got to a point where we were bringing kids in, our kids, and so we had a troop of powder monkeys to do comedic bits with us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all got together, all the families got together, and we did this pirate movie night so we could show them the movies that inspired us to be pirates in the first place. So we played the Seahawk and Captain Blood and I'm trying to think all the different ones. Well, we played a whole bunch of these old pirate movies.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, they're all black and white. And I said, well, yeah, because I said they're all made before World War II. Well, what does that have to do with anything? And I said, oh, we stole color from the Nazis. What?
Yeah,
everybody was black and white until World War II.
Yeah.
And then we stole color from they invented color. And they were like, what?
Yeah.
And the kids are buying this hook, line, and sinker, and the parents are all just playing along. Oh, yeah, yeah. Don't you remember the pictures of the big red banners? We were all so impressed. We were all looked around, and we were all black and white, and they had color. They were full color people. And so we
like, how did the Nazis get color before we did?
Well,
that's I used to tell. That reminds me of stuff I used to tell Abby and Bryn when they were growing up, when they were kids, about Ellie's age, and I would always tell them just junk science, you know.
Yeah.
And
the problem is those girls were so smart; they saw through it all.
They finally caught on. Yeah, we got color when I was like 9, said Gina. It came from the Nazis, Gina. Remember that?
Yeah.
Color is bad. It came from the Nazis.
The Nazis. We stole it.
The Nazis. So, what was I thinking? Something Nazi just came up in my head.
You were talking about telling the girls.
Well, I would tell the girls all kinds of stuff. I remember the one that stands out was we were driving by a McDonald's down in Apple Valley once, and it was a a little McDonald's in a strip mall, and it was new, and it had the sign, but it only had one arch on the sign. And the girls say, "How come that only has one arch, Dad?" I said, "Well, haven't you ever heard? That's a half Donald's." She goes, "A half Donald's? What's that?" I said, "That's where, in order to try to stay with current health standards, they're starting to build half Donald's. And the half Donald's is where you get a half a Big Mac, a half order of fries, a half a malt." "Really?" I said, "Yeah, and it cuts down your fat intake." And I said, "They just cut it in half for you. And then they serve the other half probably to somebody else." "Oh, is that cool?" I said, "Yeah, it's all right." And they bought that for a long time. I used to tell them stuff like that all the time. What happens when the sun sets, Dad? Listen. You hear that? Oh, there it is. It's going. They said it's burning out on the horizon. And then it reignites in the morning on the other side. So stupid stuff, So Hitler invented the car to save money in Germany. Yeah, the Volkswagen.
People's
If you
car.
are driving a Volkswagen Beetle, remember you are children of the Third Reich. Heil Hitler. Wiener Schnitzel and Lederhosen.
And an ambulance is a Krankenwagen.
A Krankenwagen.
Yeah.
Quick, call the Krankenwagen. Heil Hitler. I always remember the character from Indiana Jones, from Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Nazi guy. Takes off his coat,
pulls
on a hanger,
pulls out that metal thing, and ching.
Yeah,
everybody freaks out like he's gonna beat her with it.
So I stole that line a long time ago of his, because he sits down, he goes, "Well, what shall we talk about?" I pulled that on Rainey when I first knew her. "So, what shall we talk about?" She goes, "You're creepy fucker, aren't you?" I go, yes, I am. We were already dating, though. She'd already bedded me, so I was okay. I was vetted and bedded.
Yeah, there you go.
So. Oh, look at the time.
Oh.
10:53.
It's Bauer time.
It's Bauer time, yeah. No, that comes in 4 minutes.
I'm just going to borrow the last few minutes of your show.
I loved it when the Nazi melted too, Gina. Ah! And he melts. I'm looking forward to the next Indiana Jones movie. I really am.
Are you?
Yep. I think they probably did a good job with it. I'm not a hater of Crystal Skull. I thought that was a good movie.
I thought it was a fun romp.
Fun romp.
There are things I would have done differently directorial.
Yes.
Directorial. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I would have made some choices differently. But
oh, sure.
But other than that, I liked it. I actually liked what's his name playing his son?
Oh yeah.
I'm having a mental block on
it. Something. What the heck was his name?
I know. I want to say La Brea, but it's not La Brea.
No, it's something like that though.
Shia LaBeouf.
LaBeouf. Sarah. It's because it rhymes with Yusuf.
Who's working on some new film where he plays like a Jesuit or something, and he's really just deep in. He was on one of his online things. I'm having a mental block on that word. Social media. He was on one of his social media things the other day saying, "Here's what I'm doing. I'm not crazy. I'm doing a deep dive into this character and trying to get into his headspace."
Blackballed for what reason?
Oh, he says and does what he wants. And I don't have a problem with that. I don't agree with all of his politics, but let's face it, the kid grew up in a hippie commune, and it's amazing to have any sense of self and stability anyways, as far as I'm concerned.
Susie Q. Why do we have to leave out the leprechauns? Is that non sequitur or what?
Yeah. Did we leave out the
Did
leprechauns?
we leave out the leprechauns?
I've never left the little people out.
Russell Crowe is playing Father Gabriel Amarth. His accent is terrible. Is he Irish? I don't know who Father Gabriel Amarth is.
I don't know.
So it's a good time to tell my leprechaun joke again, but it's not St. Patrick's Day. That's only 4 days away. I gotta
Is it?
get Sam over here for St. Patrick's Day.
We should.
What day is St. Patrick's Day fall?
What would
on?
be nice is if the three of us could get together and pound back the Guinness and do a show.
That's Friday. Did I count that right? Monday is 13th, and the 14th is Tuesday, 15th is Wednesday, 16th is Thursday, 17th is Friday. It's Friday. I might be able to get Sam over here. Sam the leprechaun.
Oh, to be sure. I'll wear my green top hat that day. And maybe I'll put me kilt on.
You'll be wearing your green top hat then, is it?
Yeah. Or as I used to say, I dress in my fine Scots wear and I go, I'm Scottish. We don't need a special day to drink. We drink every day.
I thought that was the Irish. I thought the Scots, the Scots will drink whenever they want to, yes, but it's the Irish. It's not the Scots who drink too much. It's the fucking Irish.
Who don't know how to hold it.
They don't know how to hold their liquor. Well, I know how to hold my liquor. By
By
the ears.
years, like everyone else.
Yes, Your Majesty, we know how to.
My favorite Queen line of all time. Your Majesty, how do you hold your liquor? By the ears, like everyone else.
That's it. Oh, my goodness.
She knew how to make a pirate laugh.
She had to make everybody laugh. Which queen are you talking about? Who created
Lolly?
That? Lolly, okay. And
Kim was also a great queen. I loved
Kim was a great
Kim.
queen. Folks, you don't know who we're talking about. It's just festival talk again. We get it. We lapse into that every now and then. So the Irish, though, we used to do Scottish all the time because we did Clantartan. We did a historical reenacting that was Scottish for these big events and festivals. And so we always dressed up in our kilts. I might have to wear my kilt on Friday. There is going to be a parade in New Richmond. There's a parade every year for St. Paddy's Day, and I always wear my kilt. So never discount the wee folk.
Never.
Chuck Thurston. They have a sharp temper. Thank you, Chuck. If it's not Scots, it's crap. That's right. And so we used to have the kilt days at the festival. So we came up with all these one-liners for patrons who would say, these girls would come by and women, for those of you who care. What's a real Scotsman wear under his kilt? And we'd look at him and we'd say, why, what shade of lipstick you wearing, lass? Or what's a Scotsman
worn under your kilt? Nothing's worn. It's all in perfect working order.
It's all in perfect working order. What's a Scotsman wear beneath his kilt? And I'd look down and I'd say, why, my socks and shoes, of course. So. Queen Molly or a Kim? I was thinking, never heard of Queen Molly or a Kim. Well, Kim was George's queen. From what year to what year?
Oh, Kim was out there in the late
Give me
80s,
your hand, lads.
early
I'll show
90s.
you. Sorry, Kat said, you're supposed to say, give me your hand, lass, and I'll show you. Well, here, take my hand. Take my hand. I'll show you. And yeah, we used to wear. We didn't really tie it to our junk, but we used to wear blue ribbons that would dangle out the bottom of our kilts. Well, it
Yep.
won an award, you know. You know. 10 inches of the finest cured meat in all the land. It's hung like a babe, a wee babe, 9 pounds and 12 inches.
When Dan Oak was playing Friar Tuck,
Yes.
he went out and bought, like, I don't know, foot-long piece of salami,
Gina, I do pardon your spelling.
tied a rope around it, tied that around his waist under his robes, and he would sit there with his hands on his hips and rock back and forth and get that salami swinging, and it would dangle down, like, I don't know, to about his knees. So this thing would rise up from his knees and then swing back and rise up from between,
Nice.
making him look like he was quite well endowed.
Yes.
Dangerously so, if you ask me.
Yeah, Kat, that's the old. Do you know how many times, not mocking you, Kat, do you know how many times people have posted that to me? Oh, I heard this funny joke. You got to hear it. I don't know where you've been, but I see you won first prize.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, yeah. Oh, that's great. Like Braveheart, yeah. That's what we do to all our enemies. We raise our kilts and waggle at them. So, what's from the animated film Brave? I love the old clan chief, not her dad, but when they're having the gathering of the clans, and it's the old dude Macduff or whatever his name is, and he lifts his kilt and says, "Feast your eyes." That's it.
In a Disney pick.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
Yeah.
I liked it. It was a Disney character with both parents alive.
Well, there you go.
So, well, folks, guess what? It's after 11 o'clock.
It is.
Where is the time gone?
I don't know. It just flies by. It seems
I'm
like
gonna
just
get out of
yesterday
here.
was Monday.
But I'm going to send Uncle Dave on his way first. See you, Uncle Dave.
Bye.
Bye. All right, folks. That's it. We're out of here. And thanks for being here. Now, tomorrow, remember, at 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you're in England, it's going to be 9 p.m. because you haven't caught up with us with daylight savings time for a couple of weeks yet. So there's a 5-hour difference to London tomorrow. But my London radio wifey and cohort in crime, Wendy Robertson, she will be here joining me for Robertson at 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Got a great topic. We're going to talk about, I didn't really title it yet, but it's the way we talk to each other on social media. We're thinking about men and women. And so get that in the back of your head. That's tomorrow at 4. If you can join us, we'd love to see you there. It's going to be right here. So other than that, then we're back on Wednesday with Intrepid Radio, Thursday off, and then Friday with Intrepid Radio, which is going to be St. Patrick's Day. And hopefully we'll have my boy here, the wee leprechaun Flynn, or Sam. Flynn's not a leprechaun. So maybe we'll get Flynn on as well. Have my sons both here. All right, guys. Have a good night. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your time with me. And until next time, live long and prosper.